U.S. Northern Command tracked and eventually shot down a Chinese spy balloon after it traveled across the country. Lieutenant General A.C. Roper is the deputy commander. He joins us from NORTHCOM's headquarters at Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado Springs. General, nice to have you on the program. Welcome.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
So can you talk about that process of taking down the balloon with the F-22? What was that like? Why was the Sidewinder the missile that was selected for that?
Well, let me first say that we're extremely proud of all of our personnel that were involved in this operation. It was truly an interagency affair. And so the coordination and collaboration to really have a successful shoot down of this balloon really speaks to the professionalism of our personnel and the training that they conduct every day. So I would just simply say, as the balloon transited across the United States, there was a lot of planning. Two of the things that we really pride ourselves on is creating decision space and articulating risk, which means that we really provide options. But when the decision was made to conduct the shoot down, everything worked according to plan.
And can you tell me a little bit about why the decision was made not to shoot it down over the United States? What were the risks involved with that?
Well, it's really a risk-reward scenario. We recognize the fact that we have some intelligence gaps regarding these balloons. And so as the discussions and planning was proceeding as the balloon transited, we had to take that into consideration. The risk of them collecting intelligence. So we did everything we could in coordination with the fellow combatant commands, et cetera, to really prevent intelligence collection. But we also wanted to maximize the opportunity to really observe this balloon and really try to close that intelligence gap that has persisted. And so it was really key for us to maximize the opportunities, ensure safety, but also execute our action at the time and place of our choosing, which was off the coast there in the Atlantic Ocean.
And you mentioned intelligence gaps. Are you confident that those gaps have been addressed in case there are future spy balloons?
Well, we're sure that we will have some gains, some tremendous gains from the exploitation of this balloon and its components. And so the intelligence community is working that now, and there's a lot more to come on that because they're really just getting started as we continue to conduct the recovery operations.
And how is that recovery operation going? How long do you expect it to go on? And are you expecting to be able to get everything, all the debris?
Well, I would say we have some true professionals out there with our U.S. Navy component, Navy North. NAV North is how it's referred to, but is also in partnership with the United States Coast Guard. We have the FBI embedded with us, and so there's work being done right now to recover. We have several vessels out there that have mapped the seabed. We have a good sense of the debris field, but now it's just a matter of working within the constraints of the weather. The waves and everything that they have to really deal with to successfully retrieve, bring that debris and those components up to the surface, and so that they can all be exploited.
And the commander of NORTHCOM is also the commander of NORAD. So can you tell me what the difference is in the mission? How do the two work together in a situation like the Chinese spy balloon?
Well, it's two commands, but they're really inseparable. So you're correct. General Glenn Van Herk is the commander of both. So let me just speak for a little bit regarding their mission set. So NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, is really responsible for three missions: aerospace warning, aerospace control, and maritime warning. And so in that command, which is bilateral in partnership with the government of Canada, the combatant commander here has two bosses. He reports through the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, through the Secretary of Defense, to the president. But on the Canadian side, he reports through the chief of their defense staff and their minister of national defense to their prime minister. So that's the NORAD piece of it. But then U.S. Northern Command, which is one of our 11 combatant commands, is responsible for homeland defense, That's the #1 no-fail mission. It's also responsible for defense support to civil authorities. In other words, think about the federal response to natural disasters. And then thirdly, it's responsible for security cooperation in partnership, not just with Canada, but with the Mexico and with the Bahamas. And so those two mission sets, those two commands have to work hand in hand. So for example, if a missile was launched, it would be the NORAD hat. How do we provide threat warning, attack assessment to really get ahead of that threat? If it's engageable, it's Homeland Defense, which means it's now the NORTHCOM hat. And if there's a hit or something that affects the nation, it would be the NORTHCOM hat in regards to defense support to civil authorities and consequence management. So in any scenario, the combatant commander here may have to switch hats, which also means he's switching authorities.
And obviously, the Department of Homeland Security also has as its mission defense of the homeland. Where is that line where your role ends and their role starts?
So DHS, Department of Homeland Security, they're great partners of ours. But also, let me also mention FEMA, CISA. There's all types of interagency partners here in the homeland because of the authorities and the responsibilities that we have to work closely with. So for example, let me just mention the southwest border. That's the Department of Homeland Security mission, but Department of Defense through U.S. Northern Command is providing soldiers in a Title X federal status to support CBP and DHS. And so at times there's this tight coordination and collaboration where we're supporting their mission set, and that's what you see on the southwest border. Some may argue differently, but let me just stress that that's the DHS mission, and we're there due to a request for assistance.
General, the U.S.'s two primary adversaries are China and Russia. Which of those do you think has the greatest capability to threaten the homeland?
Well, I would say, as we speak today, that would be Russia. Our national defense strategy refers to Russia as the acute threat. And of course, it refers to China as the pacing threat. So we would say that China is roughly 5 to 7 years behind Russia in regards to threats to the homeland. I think it's interesting to note that as we look at the war in Ukraine, quite often people think about Russia's performance on the battlefield from a land domain perspective. They're looking at the army, and it has been challenged. But I would say to you that in those other domains, when we talk about Russia's capability and capacity in space, with air, with their Navy and their long-range aviation, they have some amazing, challenging capabilities out there that can hold the homeland at risk when we think about their submarine capacity and capability and what they're doing in the Arctic. It has caused us some concerns.
I want to ask you about the Arctic because more than half of your area of operation is the Arctic. So how has that strategic environment changed in recent years?
Well, there was a time there wasn't much focus on the Arctic because it was basically inaccessible, unattackable. But now with the climate change, the seabeds rising, ice melting, you can transit there much more frequently now than in the past. And so in U.S. Northern Command, about 52% of our area of responsibility is the Arctic. And the combatant commander here is the dedicated, designated DOD Arctic advocate. And so for us and what we see Russia doing there, we are extremely concerned. We know we have to have forces that are organized, trained, and equipped to operate in the Arctic, which is a very challenging environment. And so we're working at that. We have a lot of work to do to ensure that we're postured, that we have the forces that can execute the mission set there. And that's a whole of government type of operation.
And I understand that there's the Ted Stevens Center and that you're growing your presence in the region. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, the Ted Stevens Center is really a game changer for us. So their mission set is really to advocate, to collaborate, to study and research this entire environment. And so the partnership we have with them is absolutely critical as we go forward. But let me also speak about DOD at large, because our services have a critical mission there. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, really ensuring that our forces can operate, that we have the infrastructure there, if needed, to do the things that we need to do to defend North America.
And I want to actually ask you, General, about your family history, because you really have a long history of public service. Can you start by telling us a little bit about your grandfather?
Yes, I will. My grandfather, William Roper, joined the Army back in 1917 for World War I. He was a Buffalo soldier in the 366th Infantry, the 92nd Infantry Division, and he deployed to France. And so I'm extremely proud of him. When he passed away, I was a second lieutenant. And so Corporal William Roper, literally thousands of soldiers like him, referred to as Buffalo soldiers, deployed to a foreign country to fight for freedom that they didn't have here at home. And so when I think about the lineage, I'm humbled. And so Granddad was a Buffalo soldier. My father was a foot soldier. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. And so during the civil rights struggle in the 60s, he was one of those young people out there protesting nonviolently. And the Birmingham Police Department, as Dr. King said back then, was the most segregated police department in the city of Birmingham, was the most segregated city in America. And so Granddad was a Buffalo soldier. Dad was a civil rights foot soldier. And so I'm an Army Reserve soldier, which means I have a dual life. I've been on active duty for the last 5 years, but in the civilian world, I'm a police officer. And I was the police chief of the city of Birmingham for a decade. And so when I thought about my family's history, our lineage, and the fact that the same police department that was so brutal during the 60s, that a son of a civil rights foot soldier would become the chief of police of that police department, it really speaks to the opportunities here in our country. And now I'm the first African-American in the Army Reserve's 114-year history to achieve the rank of Lieutenant General. So now my daughter is also a captain in the Army. And so that lineage of public service and defending our country continues to live in the Roper family. So we're honored. Yes, we have challenges out there, but this is the greatest country on the face of the earth.
And I wonder, General, what advice you give to younger people about public service and about leadership?
Well, I would say first, public service is something I think we're all called to do. So whether you're working full-time as a first responder or even in the business community or in the cyber world, et cetera, there's still something you can do to support this great country of ours. It has given us so many opportunities, and it's going to take all of us. It's not just the work of government, but even at the community grassroots level, there's something you can do to improve the quality of life for your community. So I would say serve. Dr. King actually said, in this being Black History Month, everyone has the capacity to be great because everyone can serve. And so I would say serve. In regards to leadership, leadership is all about influence. It's about people. It's about relationships. It's not about metrics. It's not about platforms, but it's about people. So let's do everything we can to improve the lives of people from the community up to the national level.
All right, General, so nice to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and hit the subscribe button to be the first to watch our latest content. Full shows and more are available on our website at govmatters.tv.